printed. This is an automatism that ensures that you always have the actual information in the order record. As soon as the item arrives in the library, we make sure that we search our catalog record again to be able to take delivery. We execute the catalog search, double-click on the entry in the hit list, and go to the stock options screen. Here we select the relevant order number, and as soon as we do so, all the appropriate fields are already automatically inserted from the order record. We can then either manually enter a barcode number or use a barcode scanner to scan in a barcode number or make the system allocate the next available barcode number. We can enter the item call number, and then finally take delivery of the order line. The system reminds us that there is no invoice number for this order and asks us if you wish to continue or if we want to cancel. I decide to cancel because I want to enter an invoice number, because I want to be able to process the invoice appropriately in LIBERO afterwards as well. Not many libraries do so. This would be up to your own needs if you use the invoice maintenance in LIBERO or if you don't. Now the system reminds me that this is a new invoice for the supplier and I have to confirm this information, which I do. It asks me if I want to enter the item onto the new materials list. Yes, of course I do. I would like to inform my WebOPAC users that there are new items in the library. And the system reminds me that the budget has not been adjusted yet. This will only be adjusted when I pay the invoice because I have set my parameters accordingly. So what we now see is that we have one line on the items tab and that we have one line less on the orders tab. So by taking delivery, LIBERO changes the order line into an item line. And if we look onto the stock maintenance screen, we will now see that there are only 11 open orders. We had 12 before, and now there is one holding. Now that I've talked about parameters already a few times, it's time to see where they come from and how they are set up. There is a separate module for this. This is a parameters module, and we have lots of menus with lots of parameter options to be set. When we install LIBERO for the first time, you get a standard set of parameters, which mainly consists of mark tag descriptions. For each mark tag that is defined, you can set various options. For instance, for the author's name, you can set the display heading for the OPAC. You can set in what position the author should be displayed in the OPAC. You can set the number of times allowed. You can set if this is a mandatory field. You can add specific indexes for this field and so on. One very important option on this screen is the Validate Against Authority Table option. You can select if this term has to be validated against an authority table to ensure that new entries are controlled and to prevent your colleagues from typing errors, from inserting false author entries and all that stuff. One parameter I talked about earlier is branch codes, for instance. This is the example of a branch code parameter screen where you can see that you have a branch code, you have a description, street, city postcode, phone, fax, and more information. You can decide what information has to be printed on the circulation slips, and you can, for instance, define a branch as a real concrete branch or define a branch as a virtual branch, which might, for instance, be a video library within the central library. So what do you have to do if you want to set up a new branch? Select the stock menu and go to the branch codes screen. Enter a new branch code and enter a description. These are the only fields you actually need. You could already save the parameter now, and here it appears in the appropriate list. The amazing thing about LIBERO parameters is that they all can be set online by the library staff. It's not really necessary that the IT staff of the library interferes. All this can be done by the library staff themselves. And the second amazing thing is that the parameters get active in the moment when they are saved. So if we now get back to the catalog module, we will see that the new branch is already in and that the branch code can be used immediately. Other parameters we talked about is the fund cost centers. They are set up in the finance menu as fund codes. Let's say Central Library, Institute for Natural Sciences, and others, and in the same finance menu as cost centers, for instance, for books, journals, or continuous orders. Now we have fund centers and cost centers, but where does the actual budget and the budget control come from? This comes from the acquisitions module. There we have a budget table that can be set up and maintained for each library and for each budget year. If you want to create a new fund cost center, make sure that you select the relevant fund, select the appropriate cost center, and allocate an amount that you can spend for this fund cost center during the relevant budget year. Save your entries. You will see that there is a new line in the grid underneath with a budget and no committed money yet because you did not place any orders where you used that fund cost center up to now. The budget table gives you a complete overview of the financial situation of the library for the actual budget period. You can always see the budget amount, the committed amount, which means outstanding orders, the actual amount, which means taken delivery or invoice paid, depending on the parameter setting, the total sum, which is the addition of committed plus actual, and the variance, which is the amount that you are still able to spend during this budget period. In addition to that, you can allow a fund cost center to be overspent, and you can set warning percentages. Means if 90% of the budget have spent in this case, then everybody who uses this fund cost center within an order or within a take delivery will get a warning telling him, hey, be careful, 90% have already been spent. The budget table comes with a complete edit history so that you can clearly see who changed what position on the budget table when, and what were the old values and what are the new values. On top of that, you can of course limit the access to the budget table and restrict it for authorized staff, and you can set it to read only for another group of people. What else do we have in the acquisitions module? We have the supplier maintenance